Fighting or swearing. Good evening. Good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to a Lyceum evening where all topics are appertaining to spiritualism. We hold these regularly on our Saturday night talks, and incredibly popular, great melting pot of ideas, wonderful people donating their time and their knowledge to share with us. Tonight, absolutely no exception. A lovely lady, Angela Foster, who we're working together a little bit, aren't we, at the moment, Angela?
Just slightly. Well, I'm nagging him to death, you know. Some things don't change.
It's an absolute joy working with you. Thank you. Excuse me. Tonight's topic is the role of the recipient. Now, when Angela floated this idea to me, I thought that's great, because we're always talking about our mediums, be they evidential, philosophical, whatever, or our churches, our centres, or our training. But what about the person sat there getting the message? What about that person who comes into our churches, our centres, our private sittings? What about them? So far, they have escaped the scrutiny, but no more. So, Angela, my darling, we are looking forward to a wonderful evening with you.
Well, thank you very much for having me back with this topic that I feel is so close to my heart. Now, we know the demonstration of mediumship demonstrates that life continues after death, and we know that the medium acts as a conduit for the spirit world. But we also know, and you know, whether you're a medium or have been at the end and have been a recipient, that the least well-trained within this triumvirate, this group of three, is the recipient. And we know that this can cause us so many issues during a demonstration. We tend to have been taught that the role is passive. And although the medium doesn't want a conversation with the recipient, in order to remain focused with spirit, the recipient can definitely affect the success of a message. So therefore, I'm going to have a look at a PowerPoint that I put together. It's just one slide, it's nothing too much. And afterwards, perhaps we can discuss whether the recipient should receive any training. You know, what normally happens is that there are 2 or 3 words said at the beginning of a service. Please admit that you can take the message as quickly as you can. If it's appropriate, say yes, no, or maybe. Don't feed the medium. We've heard all these expressions. And I also add, if you hear from your gran and you don't want to speak with her, then just say so. But this is just a drop in the ocean as to how it affects the response that we get back from the recipient. And you know who are the worst recipients? The mediums. We suddenly, don't we? We suddenly lose all decorum. We want to message grab. We want to hear from our dad or our granddad. You know, we want to feed the medium because that's what we do, because we can't keep quiet. We're so used to chatting for 15 minutes or an hour and a half. So I thought we'd have a look at the dynamic of the spirit world, the medium and the recipient, and just see what happens when it looks in colour on a printed piece of paper. So I'm going to do a present. Now, I've only learned how to do this today, so you'll have to bear with me. Oh, right, I'm going to put that one up first. You see, if you don't do things in the right order, it won't agree with you. There you are, share. Now, 2 seconds. There it is. There it is. So I can say this is all my own work. So this is the lovely egg shape that holds the meaning of life. And I've called it the workings of the triumvirate, how the three blend and engage, the spirit world, the recipient, and the medium. And I thought we might look at each little part in isolation. So we have the medium, and we know that the medium will want to blend with the spirit world. And that blending has to be very deep and very pure to create this wonderful link. But at the same time, we also want to link with the recipient. And the 2 ways we can do this We then can do it by ignoring the spirit world, and you can see that in the little green where it says a psychic link. And that's what we often will do with a psychic reading. And the recipient there's this little area where the medium and the recipient link, and the psychic link is, you can see the wording there. But at the same time, the recipient is also involved in this triumvirate. So what does the spirit want? What does the recipient want to do? Well, it'll want to link with us. Lovely. And it'll also want to link with the spirit world. Now, if it only links with the spirit world and totally ignores us, they know that they can feel this shared emotional link. You know very often when your granddad or your dad or your mum or your best friend, your husband, your wife have come in. You can feel that emotional link. But you're ignoring the medium. If you connect with the medium and not with the world of spirit, you get the psychic link, and you may or may not feel very much at all. So there is a perfect sweet spot right in the middle of this union, where the spirit world, the recipient, and the medium all meet. Right in the middle. And you know, although it may have different connections as far as verbal communication is concerned, that intensity creates that beautiful moment where you realize actually that each of them have an extremely important role to play, that not one is less than the other, that if anyone is missing, then this whole beautiful connection can break down and become something completely different. It can become a shared emotional link with recipient and spirit world. It can become a psychic link if it's just the recipient and the medium. And the medium, if with the spirit world, is in meditation and doing their own thing and not even acknowledging that the recipient is there. So we have underestimated just the power the recipient has in this relationship. And by doing so, we completely ignore the fact that they may need some training. The spirit world knows what's happening. The medium knows what's happening. We've had years of experience. The recipient gets 2 minutes en masse before the medium comes on the platform. And then they have to remember all this once that emotional link with the spirit world comes into force. The area around the edge is the spirit world, who all the time know exactly what's happening. Today I needed to speak to a student. They did not know that I would ask them to create a link with the spirit world. I had to become that recipient. I probably wasn't very good at it, so excited as I usually am when the mediums get a link. You know what we're like, we don't get them that often. But what happens is that the spirit world are there to contain us, like the outside of an Easter egg, perhaps. They know exactly what's going to be contained in that energy field. They know exactly the part that they have to play to make this work. The medium knows exactly the part we have to play to make it work. The recipient doesn't. So I'd like to ask you some questions tonight. I would like to find out if any of you feel if there should be some formal training for the medium, for the recipient. What form should this take? And would this be tolerated or accepted by the congregation as a whole? That's a question I leave with you.
Brilliant. Well, it's not like you, Angela, to leave your sitters with questions and work to do, he says, tongue in cheek. Seriously, everybody, you have a conversation with Angela, you come out with 5 jobs, and you're like, hang on a minute, how did that happen?
I do tell you the order that they have to come in. I mean, I don't just leave you to choose. I mean, that would be silly, wouldn't it?
So there is free will. Oh, hurrah.
No, yours, go.
Free will, you can do it now or later.
Yeah. Yes. God, you've got me so right. Yes. So getting back to the topic in hand.
Sorry.
Such a disruptor. Tell us what we should be doing about this. Is there an answer to the meaning of life? The role of the recipient.
This topic is really very close to my heart at the moment, because in the world of today, I know I've experienced it firsthand as a platform medium, and talking with others are picking up similar experiences. And the phrase pulling teeth has been said quite a few times. We see it on some of the Zoom services and dems. Somebody will give the evidence of somebody. They will build up this picture, this character, and put it out there saying, does somebody understand it? And everybody will sit there going, no, no, no. And they might go, Angela, would you understand this? Oh, yeah. And you think, hang on, what is that block? What has happened? Why do people not really engage with it? I don't know. There's something has happened since COVID and the lockdowns where people are that little bit more detached. And this is being actually reflected in many a church and centre service as well. You can stand there talking at people and just suddenly realise we're not engaging. Now, obviously, what do we do as a medium? Oh, I've got it wrong. But you think, no, I've not got it wrong, but something has changed and I need to engage our congregations in a different way.
I think you've made an interesting point there, but I'd like to just quickly refer to a wonderful handout that I've got to thank Nicola Shortland-Neal for, when she describes the different sorts of recipient, the different types of recipients. And she talks about the reluctant recipients, those who are waiting for somebody particular to come or a particular piece of information, or those who understand who it is but doesn't want to speak up, like the sort you were talking about just then, or who may just be shy or have had some sort of trauma, so they don't want to discuss it in an open forum, or they're just waiting for the one particular person, or prove it to me. I mean, we all know the recipient, and if you give them a comment like, so, would you like me to give you some more information? They're going to say yes, aren't they? And then she talks about the enthusiastic recipients, the chatty ones. Well, that's probably me. And the ones who are, anxious to take anybody that comes with 3 legs, 4 arms, 2 noses. You could say anything they'd go yes to. And then we get the perfect recipient. And that's the sort that we want to encourage on the platform. Those with an open mind and heart that understands the information is a proof of survival, that they will take steps if necessary afterwards to verify information which has been given to them. And that each communicator may come with a specific reason that isn't about what the recipient needs or wants, but it comes from the need of the communicator, and then they've got the courage to say yes. There are so many aspects of this that is more than just about there's a group of people and one of you, hell or high water, is going to take the message that I give you.
Yeah, very true. Lovely. Jamie Williamson. Good point, Jamie. As an idea, why not hand out leaflets explaining what a recipient should expect of a medium and their role?
Yeah, we need to do something.
Yeah, and Jamie, the handout of leaflets is one thing, but in this day and age where we are so engrossed now with, we started off with just newsletters available in the church, but now as our reach has gone out further and further into social media and websites, I mean, that's quite a valid point to just include that description, because people are coming into our energies who are looking for something. 99% of people walking through the church door, they're looking for something. And they've not had an exposure to spiritualism. There's not been the understanding. If there was, it may have been after 2 pints down the local social club and an evening of. So, yeah, that's actually, Jamie, that is a really good point. You've started me off now, Jamie. I'm going to have to be editing the websites. Thank you.
He's made a really good point. And the thing is that if the recipient understood how important their role was, that if they weren't there, then the mediumship wouldn't happen. It wouldn't be necessary in that form. If they understood how important their role was, then how much better the communication could be.
Yeah,
that is add value.
Yeah, That is, I'm already formulating it. After we go off air, I will be upstairs editing.
There'll be a course on it, won't there, with a certificate at the end of it?
Oh yeah, got to have a certificate. And a cup of tea.
Oh, absolutely right. Too
But
deep
yeah,
to get it right. Absolutely.
in the real world example, I'm good on my signage down here at Poole, and we've got blackboards that go out in the drive. And when I advertise a divine service, I will put underneath it as philosophy, healing, and evidential mediumship, because that gives people an idea of what to expect. So this is the next step on from that. So yeah, good idea, Jamie. Thank you. You send the invoice, you know the address. Sue Townsend, I feel it would be dependent on whether the recipient simply wants messages. There may be more interest in those who are interested in developing a richer understanding of spiritualism.
Yeah. What's interesting about that one is that when you're on the spot as a recipient, then to be honest, all you want to do is to hear from that loved one. And I don't know if it really engages. It's an interesting one for debate, whether it really engages with the bigger topic of understanding spiritualism. But I will say that for everybody else in the congregation, then that is about developing a rich understanding of spiritualism. So you've got the two dynamics going on. You've got the individual who is absolutely in the moment, full of emotion with their loved one. And then you've got everybody else listening who's connected to that emotion. In fact, you probably could use the yellow area of that diagram even to include the audience, to be the audience, in fact, rather than the spirit world, who are feeling that emotion. And we do feel the sadness and the joy. And if we're connecting in, we can feel that as live as the recipient can, but they will be taking it on board in a much broader sense and understanding this is another example of that life continues. So I think that works on both levels anyway.
Yeah. And you hear comments after a service where a particularly poignant message has been delivered, and other people in the service go out and go, oh my God, I felt that. Yeah, I really felt that emotion in somebody else's communication, because something I emphasize down here and say, never forget, as being part of that three-way conversation, your message may be somebody else's evidence. This is why it's important we open up that communication, but drawing the line of, yes, that's my dad. He was in the Air Force and he got shot down over Germany, and you're just like, hang on. I just want a yes. Please, just yes.
But that's I find that's why if you give the medium gives a message in the form of a story, and rather than a scattergun approach of facts, that's when the audience or the congregation is engaged. They are hearing about a story, because everybody is brought up on stories. Stories feed our lives, whether it's the box in the corner of the room nowadays or sitting around the campfire. We have storytelling as part of our innate nature. So in order to, if we deliver a message through a story, then that is going to engage people and make them understand that we really are talking about somebody, a real person here, and not just facts out of the local family Bible, to be honest. Then that's going to engage with them on a more emotional level anyway. But also we've got to remember that that's the job of the philosophy. The philosophy is designed to reach many, whereas the mediumship is probably more likely to reach one, but then again could reach everybody if it's done in the appropriate way and the energy is right.
Hugely. And I love that about the story. I saw recently an example, and it was beautiful, where it started off with he's holding up a fish, but from that fish this whole story unfolded about being a competition fisherman and the recipient had been to Canada in a contest with this gentleman of fish, and I thought, that's beautiful. This is what we should, when you say the scattergun, is something I've been working on a lot with myself. Everything you're showing, there's a story.
Yes. One
there
item.
is a story.
As I said to somebody today, one item could take 20 minutes to describe.
Yeah.
One item.
Exactly, and that builds it, and that brings that person, that personality in the sweet spot. Coin that phrase, thank you.
You like that one?
Libby Bellhouse, right, Libstar. Couple of comments often heard rippling through departing participants. Well, I could take some of it, but not all of it, so thought it best not to put my hand up, or I knew it was for me, but someone else took it. Yeah, that's a common one.
Actually, I'd like to make a comment about that. I firmly believe that the medium needs to be the captain of the ship or the director of the orchestra, and it is up to the medium to take charge. So even if we say, look, if you can't take all of it, again, telling the congregation what they want, what they need to do. If you can't take all of it, then let me know. And they should be saying, what can you take and what can't you take?
Yeah.
And, encouraging this communication. That's why I don't like, personally, going direct initially. I like to be able to give some information to show that I'm not working psychically, and that I'm not just choosing a friend out of the audience, out of the congregation, to say, here are the facts from the spirit world, who can take it? And if you encourage that environment to be more proactive, to become involved, and the medium, if they're with the wrong person, if they've got anything about them, they should know they're with the wrong person.
Yeah.
They should really know. Yeah. But very often the information is so generalized that it could quite easily apply. But it's interesting, the person who says, I knew it was for me, but somebody else took it, they will probably have had a much stronger emotional link with that communication, which proved it was their message. And the medium probably took the easy route out, because I've said it to myself, look, I'm sorry, I know you're taking this information, but I don't feel it's with you. I'm not feeling the connection here.
Yeah, you do, don't you?
You do.
It doesn't go.
It doesn't go.
Yeah.
It doesn't go. And they can move, they move back and say, okay, the spirit will move back and say, well, I can tell you as much as you like, but I'm not talking to my niece here. I'm not talking to my daughter here. So until I do, I'm not going to come and connect with you. Yeah. It's really about education.
It is. And we've got this huge fluid environment week in, week out in our churches and our centres and wherever evidential mediumship is demonstrated. I always say here at Paul, each and every service is unique, because it's made up of all the energies of everybody here today. That's not going to ever be recreated. There will always, even if you all came back next week, there will be those subtle shifts in the energy which would bring in a difference and a change. But it's also about engaging our congregations. And this is something I do quite a lot of down here, whether I know some people like it and some people may not, but that's fine. We are allowed to be different. I go to places and it's come in, sit down, be spoken at and go home. And you don't feel part of what's going on. You feel more like you're at a lecture or something. So when it does come to the evidential part, you're not, as the recipient, you're not in that right frame of being engaged, because it's like, whoa, why are you talking to me now?
Yeah.
Jen Stevenson's picked up on that. Says, Laurie always tells the congregation it is a three-way process in the service. However, some congregations don't seem to realise this and view it more of a performance than they are watching rather than taking a valid part in it. That just mirrors what I was saying there, Jen. Thank you. We need, a church service or a centre service. It is a huge, wonderful coming together of people. And it should be that big, inclusive hug to people, to welcome them in, to make them feel comfortable, to make them understand they're present. I often say on the platform, ladies and gents, you've not come here to watch us. We are working what you're bringing to the table. And without that, we would not be working.
Do you think it's how we have everybody seated? Do you think if we embrace the concept of circle more,
yeah,
it would be a different attitude?
Definitely. You probably can't see it very well behind me, but we've got a different service on tomorrow. So we've got a different format, but it is designed, I'm looking at it as an energetic object of the whole focus is coming onto the platform for the naming ceremony, the family, baby and everything are sort of in, how do I describe this? They're in the middle of one end and the platform's in the middle of the other end. So all that focus is around the family and the baby, but also obviously with deference to the service, to the talk for Hydesville Day and everything. And moving chairs around and trying different formats instead of rigid disciplines does work. It does work.
Yeah, I think it's got, that's probably why there isn't this formality through Zoom and platforms like this. That's why you get people, and I'm not, I can't see anybody here. I don't know how many of you are there. How many are watching at the moment? Do we know?
There's 24 on the church page. That's without my page and the YouTube.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. But, I just wonder whether there is this more sense of informality through Zoom. So you get people whose, decorum perhaps isn't as it should be. And we have to remind people that this is maybe a service or whatever. And we can all tell stories of amazing sights that we would have seen that we would never see in a church situation. But because of that informality, maybe we are encouraging this inclusivity in a different way. There is no obvious platform. There is no obvious chairman. It's just people coming together in the way that the old circles used to be. I just wondered about that. What do you think?
Yes, and again, you can see behind me, we have actually got the rostrum out on the platform, which is needed because it's quite an involved service. And we just need that quick reference, thinking, am I doing it right? Okay. 9 times out of 10, I will say to the medium, do you need the rostrum to read from? And if not, I just think happy days. I find it, I don't like being on these rostrums, which have got all the stuff in front of them. I understand, you've got the screen for the ladies in skirts. I get it. But I feel cut off. And if I'm feeling cut off, well, then I can probably, it's a fair bet to say the congregation are feeling that cut off as well.
We're creating that, them and us. I'm only, apparently, so the hospital told me last week, and I don't believe them. I think they lied. I'm only 4'10". So you can imagine me against a I'm here.
Yeah.
Chin on it. Oh, that was comfortable. I think they were lying, like they do about everything. I think the hospital was just having me on, but
there was sorry to interrupt you. There's a really interesting photo of the Open Door Sanctuary, Simon James, Brian Robertson's, and I just noticed their seating arrangements, which I thought, I love that. Their seating arrangement is curved both sides around a middle walkway space, and you're right in the middle of people and walking around. I thought, do you know what? I love that. I absolutely love that because you're together. There's no barriers there. And even with their rostrum, they've got a beautiful rostrum, very big, quite low, no barriers there at all. And it's just like, you know how to work energy, and that's great.
Can you imagine what that must do to the energy of everybody there? It's almost like enclosing them in the tent, when you're doing trance. That must really have a very physical engagement about how we should be communicating. Yeah, wonderful.
I think in these days, the talk of energy has become much more prevalent, and people are starting to get a much better understanding of that. And with that understanding comes these opportunities to try things, to do things slightly, change is inevitable. So you have two choices. You can grasp it or run away and hide. But yeah, play the Reverend Nick. Where is he? Where's his comment? Goodness, we're very chatty tonight. Lovely. Reverend Nick Brown, we curve the seats in our church rather than lines to help inclusion, because it does. When you sat at home in front of the fireplace, you haven't got settee, armchair, you naturally curve it around. You sit around a dining table. You don't sit in a line, unless you go to Wagamama's. But
But don't you see this is a way of telling people subconsciously you are important?
Yeah.
It's not a them and us situation.
Very much.
If we're doing this in a very physical way, then the mental and the emotional connection begins to take form. And perhaps the education will be of a different nature. It'll be of a very visual nature, like you are important. I mean, it was always this one that you should never walk amongst the congregation. Remember, we were taught this: don't walk amongst the congregation.
Don't come down off the platform; you'll break the link.
Exactly. Just shout to the person at the back of the room and then work forward. I mean, all these ridiculous rules. But I think we've just missed a trick here, and in doing so, we've created big problems for ourselves.
But again, although this time after 2020 obviously has brought a lot of challenges to us, it's also brought a lot of opportunities to actually break the mold, to go, okay, we've always done it this way, but why? And that energy is still going out into our lives and into politics and whatever, and we are more questioning now. But in the churches and centres, you've got this try thing. I know some people are going to say, but Mrs. So-and-so always sits there. This is why I continually mess around with the chairs at pool, because nobody gets a chance to claim a chair for their own, because next week, it's going to be moved. So you just carry on. And people are okay with it. I say, we'll probably get about 20 comments in now saying, well, actually, no, it's really annoying, Lawrence.
I paid for that chair. I want my chair. That was my chair.
Yeah, it's got my name on it. I wrote it underneath.
It might be.
Comment here from Greg Hopkins. With the downside, I have experience of a medium and told a recipient who was also a trainee medium that you need to understand how to take a message before you can give one. So that's one part of it.
Yeah.
But then he continues to say all the information given to the recipient was totally wrong. Nothing was relevant. It was upsetting and rude. It's not always the recipient's fault. Sometimes the medium is wrong and needs the humility to accept that. Yeah, it's a good statement. I agree with the first part, that I encourage people in circles to go to a service. And I'm not saying come here. I don't care where you go. Go to a service. See how mediums work. See how it feels to be in the congregation. Look at the things that you think, I like that. That's really good. Or, oh, God, that's irritating. I know one medium kept leaving about a half a minute pause between each sentence. And it was like, please don't do that.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Please don't do that.
A unique moment, and it's been a long. Yeah. I mean, there's some interesting stuff happening here, isn't there? Either the medium is so glad to have picked somebody in the audience that they'll give information out, and it's not for them, and the right person hasn't owned up to it. But there is so much here about the discipline of how to present information, how not to be pushy. I mean, there is a discipline, and it all boils down to that word. And as you know, we're holding a course on this in a couple of weeks. But there are rules of engagement, and even the spirit world have to know what can and can't be said. they know jolly well that if they are going to start using swearing and cussing, which some of them do, that we are not going to repeat that as mediums.
Yeah.
That we are going to have to find ways of considering the recipient's sensitivities. So again, this is a whole dynamic which needs to be handled with care and to be appropriate. A good medium, a good recipient, and a spirit world who know what their job is at any given moment.
Yeah, very true. You see, sometimes the ones that I call the bulldozer medium, you know, and they will fire a load of facts and figures and whatever at you, and you don't get any chance to interact. You know, you could be totally right, which would be wonderful to everybody else to hear, but they're negating that chance of them being wrong, you know. And as an evidential medium, when I get a no, that's fine, because that means I need to go back, right, what did I drop? Oh, okay, would you understand it this way?
Absolutely agree. The power of the no. Well, I absolutely agree with that. That, you know, we shouldn't be frightened of no's. No's just mean that we have to fine tune it, and it also allows us to connect back with that energetic link, rather than putting our own interpretation on something. So yes, absolutely.
Keith Morn picked up on something interesting that's been rattling around in my energy for just a wee while. Some people expect everything: names, places, facts, and understanding. Others expect nothing and are geared up for disappointment. A brief introduction before giving a reading explained that it's difficult to talk to spirit, and what they say can be confusing, and not what people expect can help. Then he goes on to say, Ina Twig decided that platform work couldn't unite expectations and work solely on private readings. Mediums during platform can't announce a name, and can anyone take it? They have to sing. Hang on, we're missing a bit of that. No, we're not. That's it. Yeah. The thing
yes, I see what he's getting at. Yeah.
The thing I'm picking up there was a few discussions going on about mediums should, if a sitter says what's their name, the medium should go back to spirit, get their name, and give it to them, which to a degree I understand. However, it does open up, oh, what's their name? So-and-so. What's their postcode? What's their telephone number? What's their STD? You know, and you get to that point of saying, actually, we as mediums have got to trust in the spirit world. There is a certain amount of trust and understanding from the recipient's point of view, that you know, have you ever had it? You're given a full description of, say, a father, and this is based on a personal experience, character, everything, and the sitter's gone, well, what's his name? Me being me, I just turned around and said, sorry, when you were 15 watching Tiswas and your dad walked in the room, did you say, what's your name?
Do you know, you make a very good point here, and the problem is that then you are engaging with the recipient in a conversation. You're on a psychic link, which you might be able to read the name from their aura. It might happen. I've never happened to me, but you might happen. And then you suddenly, and the spirit will go say, oh, thanks very much, but we're getting bored now. You know, you've come out of that sweet spot by them asking. I know it's easy to want specific bits of information. I mean, one of the points that Nicola makes is here is asking for an agreed word that was made before passing. You know, I think, wasn't it Houdini always said that he would give, that he had a message that would be specific for his wife or his daughter or the member of the relationship, and that he would, if he could prove that that's how he'd come back, that's how the way he'd use it, he'd agree the agreed word. But the problem is, as soon as you start having this conversation, then you are disconnecting. So the recipient is important, but verbally it's only about 2% of the communication. It's yes, no, maybe. Emotionally, it's 50%, because you want that sweet spot in the middle so it blends, so it's not separate. But it can be very disconcerting, and again, this is part of the education package. We have to say that you may be hearing from somebody who you hadn't expected. You've got to think outside the box.
Often especially when people come in great distress and great grief. They want to hear from that one person. But for whatever reason, my personal feeling on that is you're not quite ready yet, love, because if you were here for them now, when that message stops, you're going to lose them all over again. And that doesn't sit well with me. You know, we've got to have that level of acceptance. So you do get somebody else step in. But of course, that's pushed aside because the focus is on that one person.
Actually, Andy Bing makes that comment very well. He says that he would never give anybody a reading that had had a bereavement less than 6 months ago.
Yeah, I get it. I do get it. I've seen it. I've worked with it. I do understand the process there. We do need to go through that acceptance phase, which some people go through very quickly. Other people takes a lot longer. Sue Townsend. Years ago, the congregation were asked to send their love towards the medium to enhance the connection with spirit. Maybe that needs to be reintroduced. What's your thoughts?
That's an interesting one, because whether we call it love or energy or whatever it is, it's saying to the medium, whoever you bring forward, we accept with love, light, truth, trust, and wisdom, whatever words you might want to use, whether or not it is for us. The spirit world will come through wherever the need is greatest. And if the congregation accept that that is the case, then you don't get the same situation with quite those who will take anybody that comes through on every occasion, because they will recognize that the need will come for those, which might mean 2 messages, which might mean 3 messages, although I always say the second and third don't have to be long. But if that is where the spirit world needs the energy to go to heal, then that's what will happen. And so therefore, if people come with that idea of love towards the medium, it's not selfish.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm a great discipline that we were talking about this pre-going live tonight. You hear some of the, I've got to do that for the energy, or somebody's got to do this for the energy, or the energy wasn't very good. Actually, the energy is our responsibility. You know, as working mediums, we should be able to work on top of a bus down a coal mine next to Big Ben bells going off, because we're immediately building in that, if I get it wrong, I've got an excuse. And it's sort of like, no, if I get it wrong, it's down to me. It's me not listening, or me having a large whiskey before I got up here. That doesn't happen.
You heard it here first, everybody. It wasn't whiskey.
I never mix my spirits.
Excuse me, I just take a sip of water here, everybody. Just
oh, right. Yeah. Water, everybody. We seem to have struck on a little chord here. This is interesting. Libby is saying, I love the idea of a service in the round, energy focal point. Yeah. And why not experiment with the, how about this? A service outside. How wonderful.
Oh, wow. I'm getting a right little tinkle about this. The spirit world were quite engaged with this conversation. I'm sure they know the best way all this is going to happen. They've just been waiting for us to go, it's our idea. And they're going, don't be silly. Of course, it's not your idea. It's our idea. We're just waiting for you to listen and to talk about it.
Okay, it's your idea.
I love a service in the round. What a beautiful title. What a beautiful title that would be, having a service in the round.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. Libby, I'm going to be over your church with a spanner and get those seats out, and I'll bring some chairs in for you, love. All right.
The pews. Yeah, the pews. You get a lot of money for pews these days. Great on the secondary market.
And again, Jen Stevenson, medium being at the front is a bit like the school teacher at the front of the classroom. Removing that barrier might make people in the congregation more keen to contribute.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conversation tonight. Thank you, everybody.
I can't see it, so I'm relying on our leader here to share it with us. It's really interesting.
Gosh, it's so much, and some of them are
Do
very
you
big.
mind if I just close my curtains? I'm feeling very exposed here. It's very light. Hang on a second, everybody. It's just going to, won't be a second. Perfect.
There we go. You're now in your trance room, are we? So we're now going to see.
Yeah, I was a little bit exposed there for the whole of the street. All right. Okay.
Lovely Chris Shearer. How are you, Chris? I haven't heard of you for ages. Is it down to confidence a lot of the time and lack of understanding? Should the focus not be so much on ways to do it or rules, but more allowing the message to flow and feel the experience as mediums work while being educating from opinions and shared experiences of others? It's quite a lot there, Chris, but you're talking about, I assume here, from the medium's point of view, from the evidential mediums. Picking up on some of the comments earlier on.
Well, if I understand this, I mean, there's a lot there. It hasn't worked up to now, has it?
Yeah.
That's my thinking, that, you know, even when you see a really, really good medium, we all seem to react in exactly the same way. And we are all still saying that, making the same comments. So maybe the time has come for something a bit more pointed, just to make people go, oh, I didn't realize. Now, I actually had a medium who was, and I hate this expression, a message grabber.
Yeah.
And if she's here tonight, I apologize. But I had to find some way of explaining how her experience could be so much better. Well, it wasn't so much the message grabbing, it was the communication during the message. So I apologize about that. But, it was, you know, I had to find some way of explaining to her. So I actually, when I had just written this, I actually took her one side and said, look, I need you to have a look at this. I'm going to be teaching this, but I need to share this with you and see what you think. And she said, I didn't realize. I just didn't realize. So I think sometimes we actually have to lay the cards on the line and say, this is what's happening. This is the dynamic of what's happening, and give people a very visual view of why it's important. Because doing this in a very subjective way doesn't seem to have worked up to now.
And also we have, in the main, new congregations in our churches and centres. Since 2020, we've seen the falling away of quite a few of the more mature members of our congregations, not happy about going out anymore or whatever, and God bless them. But equally, we've had a big rise in people coming into our churches and centres trying to make sense of life. So we've always got to keep working on everything on ground level 1.0. We do it, don't we? We talk there sometimes because we're all on that level. Somebody coming in for the first time is going, brilliant question by somebody once in a talk, what is the circle? And I went, thank you.
Well, I remember the word, when the word aura was first used. I got a clue. He said, oh, myself and this medium can extend our auras to the edge of the universe. And I hadn't got a clue what she was going on about.
Yeah.
I hadn't got a clue.
Yeah, so we need to be mindful with our language as well, because when I say language, what we're saying, because it's easy just to be working on your level, and this is not putting anybody higher or lower, it's just different trains of thought. And remember, I love it sometimes when a medium will say, is anybody here for the first time? Now, I quite like that as an introduction, you know, because it does help people go, well, you know, the brave ones will go, yeah. And they may give a little explanation there or something. And again, that person then is drawn in and included, not sat there as, what's going on, what's going on, what's going on. Julie Caswell, I've been given a message before that I could not take, and because I said I could not take it, I've been told by the medium that spirit are never wrong. But that may be true, but the medium can.
Well, that's just ego. I mean, that is just ego taking it, and the medium not wanting to work hard to get the right recipient. And to be honest, it may be that the information is either given in a form that you don't understand, Julie, or given about stuff that you just don't know. So it's difficult, you know, if the medium is absolutely insistent that the message was with you, then it can be very difficult. But again, there are certain ways, there are certain things on a public demonstration that shouldn't necessarily be placed in a public demonstration. There is, in the private sitting, you have more opportunity to say, look, I can't be with anybody else, so I know I'm with you, but maybe this is information you need to take away and find out if in fact this applies to you. Or maybe it is, without fortune telling, maybe it's an awareness of what your future could be if you made certain decisions. It's very difficult to tell. So it really depends on how the medium presents the information and where they present the information as to just how palatable that comment is to you. And in a public demonstration, to be told you're wrong and I'm right is not the best way and to give it. Maybe taking on one side afterwards and saying, look, please consider. I mean, there used to be a lot of discussion going on outside the demonstration if the medium felt she needed to, or he needed to, go to somebody after and say, look, I know I was with you, I'm sorry if it didn't seem applicable at this moment in time, but just go away and think about it, and here's my number if you want to, you know, if you find it does resonate with you. So it's all about people skills, isn't it, Laurie, at the end of the day?
Very much, very much. And it is putting that ego, and we do get it, do we not, sometimes when delivering a message, there's that bit more which is not for up there and it's nobody else's business, and you just say, don't go without having a quick chat with me, and then you can bring it out in that one-to-one basis. But yeah, it is people skills, and we get taught an awful lot, do we not, about how to work with spirit, how to develop a message, how, you know, all on evidential mediumship, but we're not backing up with prayer, philosophy, people skills, presentation, talking to the back of the room.
Well, my classes will deliver a lot of that, and I can assure you, in buckets, absolutely in buckets. There's a lot of structure involved, and stuff that most of us will have absorbed quite naturally, and some pointers that people will say, well, actually, I didn't think of it like that. And, you know, as anybody is, it's not for any one of us to tell another person how to be, to behave, how to think. But sometimes a different perspective can add new colour to the situation, to your palette of colour.
I'm not going to give it away, but one of the guest demonstrators down here, we sat and watched the service in the evening, and I noticed something they were doing in the address, and I went, I like that. And I've built that into my addresses, and it works really well, and it sits well with me, because it made me actually look at the way I deliver addresses. And, you know, when we first start off, sometimes the address can be the most terrifying part. So you tend to gobble through it, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, well, you know, we've all got to be really nice to each other. And that habit carries on. And it wasn't until seeing this person demonstrate, I went, oh, my God, you know, there's me, pack of horses, because I've become accustomed to deliver it working in that way.
You're going to have to bring that up in the class, I'm afraid. You're absolutely on point. We all want to know what that is, and we can practice it. So,
secret.
No, it can't be secret. You've got to share your secrets. It's got to be nice, man.
$5 each. Lovely Marion Frisbee.
Oh, hello, Marion.
And yeah, a different perspective than what we've been talking about on the layouts, which is great. It is lovely to see a medium work. Often, if they leave the platform and disappear behind you, you miss out on seeing the medium work. At a service recently, sitting in the front row, we spent 45 minutes staring at a blank wall because everything was happening behind us. We certainly didn't feel included. Also, on another occasion, the medium left the platform, stood directly in front of the recipient down in the aisle for 5 minutes, and then gave information about a ring the recipient was wearing. Psychic, or there's only a certain amount of narrative you can put in these comments, so this is why they keep cutting off. But yeah, that does sound like psychometry. But yeah, a good, you can't just say, okay, well, I'm going to jump off the platform and work with people, because that needs to be considered. If you are doing that and working halfway up the aisle with somebody, have you now cut off the front part of the church? You can't see you.
Well, Marion and I actually trained together for a while here in Huntingdon, so I know Marion from old. But the problem is that's to do with layout again, isn't it? That wouldn't happen in the round. Yeah. But if you get that close to somebody, there is always the chance that you can connect. But there again, is that an old wives' tale? Is it because you're standing that close to them that you can connect psychically? You can connect psychically with somebody 3 million miles away. Right. Have we debunked that theory that we are necessarily, or is it the person just not understanding the difference between psychic and mediumship and dipping into the psychic because they don't understand the difference between the two types of energy and how it's using? So can we say it's because of closeness, which I don't feel actually holds water anymore, or is it because they're just not trained to understand the difference?
Yeah, and I go for the latter with that. Again, as I said, we are responsible for our energy. Therefore, we are responsible also how we're utilizing that energy. Are we utilizing it in our mediumistic connection, or are we utilizing it in the psychic, and knowing the difference between the two? But also there is this in the round, there is also another factor to consider. Being up on a platform and in the public gaze is not everybody's cup of tea. We had a beautiful medium down south who came through the circles, did all the training, everything. And every time she got on the platform, she threw up, which is not a really good start to the service, bless her. But she couldn't handle that being in the public gaze. So if you threw her in the round, where we're thinking that's a lovely energy, actually, for some people, that might be like being in the gladiators ring in ancient Rome. You think, oh my God, they're going to bring the bears out in a minute or something. So,
the message grabbers. Bring out the message grabbers.
My partner once said, he's a lovely fellow, he supported me really well. And he said about something, he said, you know what, so far that woman's father has been a tank commander, an astronaut, spy.
As I said, 4 arms, 3 legs, 2 noses,
We go back to the mediumship standards. There are a lot of mediums who don't give what they get, but give it how they think it should be, therefore changing the message and in all possibility depriving the recipient of understanding it. Yeah, we do that story about the fish. I've seen people saying, oh, he's holding up a trout. No, that's not what you've seen. You saw a fish. Don't worry about what fish it was. Or, oh, he's holding up a fish, so I think you need omega-3 in your diet.
Yes. Oh, it always comes down to the medication, doesn't it? Yes.
Yeah. Oh, good.
You're channeling water. You need to drink more. Yeah.
You're channeling a dietitian. Well done.
Actually, Mary makes a great point there, because sometimes, as I said much earlier, I don't know, it seems quite a while ago now, that sometimes you have to adapt the message if they were ones whose language was very ripe. Or if they were ones who maybe had a really sad ending, and they're not mincing their words about how and what happened, but you may have to change it to make it appropriate for the sensitivities of the recipient listening. So although you don't want to add to the whatever you're being given in whatever form, sometimes you have to adjust it to make it appropriate for that environment. If you had a heavy drinking, loud-mouthed, arrogant, swearing father, you wouldn't want to come through with the language he might have used to his daughter on a regular basis. Yeah. Though the daughter would probably recognize that, and say, you've definitely got my dad here. That's the language he would have used. There are ways of presenting that. So it's a fine balance between not changing the understanding, the integrity of the information you're being given, but maybe making it appropriate for public ears.
Indeed, indeed. And little phrases like, I'm having to filter quite a lot of what's being said here because, you know, we cannot say that in church or on a Sunday. And even that will give that, because it is the recipient's message. And this is something sometimes we as platform mediums tend to forget because we're trying to make sense of it. And it's like, it's not your message. It's theirs. It's him talking to them. Nothing to do with you. Get out of the way.
I remember my father using one word that I'd never, ever heard him use about how he felt his relationship was with my mother. And it was such a strong word, and it was him, because he used a word that completely described in an adult way, adult to adult, rather than father to daughter. It completely was him. And yet maybe if the medium had used a different word, it wouldn't have had the same impact. It's a difficult call, and it's just experience and again, people skills and knowing what's appropriate when and where and how and whether that's going to make a difference. And either way, good or bad, it's just experience. This is why people shouldn't go on the platform too early.
Yeah.
That's a big discussion in its own right, isn't it?
Oh, most definitely. I'm a great advocate of, and we will actively do it here at Poole, that any new mediums to the circuit to get up on the platform fortunately have a lot of training mediums come and work here. So they can sit on the platform and start to build that craft rather than what's happening at the moment. Well, off you go. You know, you're going to be up there an hour and a half. You've just come out of the safety and the sanctuary of your circle, and now you've got to do an hour and a half in front of people and looking at you, you know, and in your mind you've got them judging you and, you know, got the noose out ready for you and everything. Lovely. Bill Rich, good evening, sir. I've got a rare night off for you even.
Stop digging yourself a hole. Just
that's sitting up there talking to that kid. Stop it.
Sorry about that, Bill. Just can't get the staff these days.
Often mediums use the excuse, Spirit told me to say it. Mediums forget you're responsible for what you say and do. Spot on, Bill.
In law, we are. There is no third person responsibility in law. You know.
We had on open platform night, somebody gave advice about discontinuing medication. Well, that is an absolute no. You don't do that. Well, that's what Spirit said, and suddenly it came out of your mouth. So you're the end point in this conversation. So I'm telling you, no.
This is what I worry a little bit about people who, and something that I'll be covering in the course, the Empowering Your Spiritual Address, about being very careful about saying, oh, I'm in trance when I give an address. Everything you say, you are responsible for.
Yeah.
And if you're doing trance, you have in a completely different environment. People know that what you're doing, it's not an open platform or an open service where you go into trance like that. It is not appropriate because you are not responsible if you don't know what you've said. So, I mean, that's just my feeling. Feeling. You have to be so careful because at the end of the day, the law doesn't recognize working with spirit as a communication. What comes out of your mouth is your responsibility.
That is an interesting perspective. Thank you. That is, I'll tell you later. That just answered a question. Thank you. Put the invoice in the post.
I'm waiting for the onslaught of people to say, oh, that's the only way I work. Well, you know, in a closed environment, absolutely great. If you're doing trance and everybody knows what's happening and they understand, and that is absolutely fine. But to sort of go into it when you're not aware, most of us, there's light trance. I mean, most of us will be aware that there is words coming out from a higher, thank you, Bill, from a higher selves. We have great knowledge that we have access to. We don't need the spirit world to access it. And you'll often think, my goodness, did I really say that? Well, as long as you are aware that you're actually saying it, there is no problem.
I loved it and it still happens. Doing an address, and I'll say something, or something will come out, and in my mind, I think that's interesting.
Yes.
And I just think, hang on a minute.
Write that down later.
I know. Please me, and I'm my own biggest critic, so I've done well. Yeah, we don't go that far. Anyway. Angela, what a great evening. Thank you.
Irreverent as always.
Yeah, you've started a tidal wave now, you know that. There's going to be all these churches ripping their seating out. But do you know what? If you have got the space and the format to try these things, yeah, I always get this great sense of fear sometimes from our committees up and down the land, and this fear of failure, and it denies so many opportunities. You know what? If you try something, it doesn't work. What is the end result? You know, has anybody died? No. Has the building caught fire and burnt down? No. You've tried it. It may not have worked in that format, but you might then lead on to, well, actually, that didn't quite work. But what about this? And try.
But that's being progressive. That is the proper term of the word progressive, isn't it?
Yeah.
And not staying still, not being stuck in a rut, you know.
It is.
And the proof is in the people that aren't coming to. And I got told off by a lovely English lady who lives in Greece, who's very upset when I was talking about bums on seats. If we're not getting on bums on seats, then we have to look at the equation and think, what's wrong with the equation? There has to be something wrong with it. And maybe these are all ways that we can show people, you know, that it's not the traditional church environment, that it has a new understanding, a new dynamic, and we're prepared to embrace that to get bums back on seats.
Yeah, and it's listening to the narrative. It grates on me, this word, when you hear committees or leaders or whatever talking about it's what they want. And I think, do you know what? From here on in, everything you say, I'm going to disagree with. Because who are they? Have you ever asked they? Have you actually engaged with they? Or are you basing it all on your opinion of what you think they, I can't stand that word, want?
Are you talking about the spirit world in the they?
No, congregations.
Oh, the congregation. But also, well, we've always done it like this, so why should we change it?
Yeah.
Because change might just challenge you, and that won't be much fun, won't it? You know.
Yeah. And a closing note there from lovely Jamie, which is so true.
Yeah. Yes.
If we don't offer what people need, we will fail.
Yeah.
And yeah, Jamie, very simply put, thank you.
And why is it that there are these wonderful circles appearing on Zoom day in, day out, and have stayed on Zoom? It's because we've changed the way we've presented. Just to tell you quickly, there were some wonderful results by Heidi Campbell, research by Heidi Campbell in the States, who over a period of many years has looked at why religion has become so successful with the virtual cathedral, the virtual church online. And she says it's precisely because we're giving people what they want and what they need. And we are taking away from them that which didn't serve their purpose because we thought it was appropriate and it always had to be done that way. And she's got so many statistics to show that this online working, as an example, is the way forward. And why? Because it's informal, it's warm, it's non-threatening, you haven't got the dynamics of cliques. I could go on forever.
Yeah. You haven't got to wear trousers.
Also. No slippers. Got my slippers on. And a footstool because I'm only 4'10".
Lovely Reverend Ashley Oliver. Hello, my darling. Ages since we must catch up. A church or centre is an interface created between spirit and the congregation for a moment in time. Lovely. It moves and breathes with the will of the divine. So often it is forgotten, and the same old is. Yeah. I know you've recently joined us, Ashley, but I was saying earlier on, every service is unique. It's a unique event. It's a unique happening. And it's that conglomeration of the spirit world, of the attendees, of the committee, the demonstrators, and it's just like a recipe. You'll never make that recipe ever again. So yeah, lovely.
The umami effect. You know about the umami effect, don't you?
No.
Oh, I'm going to tell you about. I'm going to finish, but maybe this is the point to finish on. In Japanese cookery, there is this wonderful ingredient called umami, and it's that bit of the. I mean, we've tried to bottle it in this country, but it's not actually an ingredient. It's the essence of the chef that is thrown in to make it unique. So every church service, every centre service has its own umami quality, and if you could bottle it, it'd be worth a fortune. But you can't bottle it because it's unique and individual, and it moves and it's diverse and it's wonderful. And if we can allow that umami effect from each and every one of us to be pulled into the centre of this in the round, that's the energy we're trying to create.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So that umami moment, and you bottled it. Not literally, but you got it. You got it. That's the thought for today. Oh, thank you, Ashley. Yeah, obviously you know about the Japanese umami ingredient, and you can't buy it in Tesco, even though they want to try and sell it to you.
Ashley is a very clever lady. A very clever lady. I love her to bits. Anyway, everybody, thank you for your time. Angela, thank you. Thank you for being gentle on me and not making me work too hard. I do appreciate
later. I terrify him. It's so funny. She summoned me. Got to be more focused.
No, it's been absolutely beautiful evening. Next week on Easter Saturday, our Lyceum night welcomes Mark Stone to talk to us. So looking forward to catching up with Mark. Our online activities tomorrow, as always, we stream our services live from the church. We've got a double special, actually we've got a triple special now tomorrow. To mark Hydesville Day, Mark Stone is our medium here in church, and he will be talking about spiritualism, looking back and looking forward. So a slight change, getting away from the wrappings and everything. We also have, as part of that service, a spiritualist naming ceremony for the newest member of our congregation, and the return of the lovely Ted. Ted is 93 years young. It was his birthday 2 weeks ago, and unfortunately had a fall. So he spent a little while, courtesy of Poole Hospital. He is returning to us, I'm informed, on Sunday, so we can have the late birthday party for the wonderful Ted. So tomorrow, get the glasses out and party on down. Anyway, Angela, again, brilliant. Thank you so much.
As always.
Yeah, I'm looking forward so much working with you with these courses coming up. That'll be great. I'm absolutely looking forward. Do I actually get to put anything into these courses, or just have to blank my screen out and sit there and shut up?
I don't. Well, that's not what I was anticipating, especially when you've got this remarkable enlightened moment that you're going to share with us. No, I expect you to be doing. We can all make sure that he does all the tasks. No, I've got some great tasks lined up. I'm afraid you're in there.
Sue there, bless Ted. So pleased he's back. Yeah, we've missed Ted. Julie Counts. I said to this guy, I said, do you know what? I said, you've gone viral. When I put the note out about you being in hospital, the amount of comments and all over the world. He went, oh, really? He's an old rogue. He's lovely. Anyway, everybody have a beautiful, wonderful evening. Angela, you can put some tonic in that gin now and just sit back and relax.
I didn't notice I was beginning to slur my words. I wondered if you'd notice.
Yeah, I thought, I know, you shouldn't put the tonic in so you can't see the bubbles. As crafty, eh?
You just leave the bottle open for a little while. That's all you said. Oh, I'm half Irish, you know. I've kissed the bloody stone, can't you tell?
Yeah, very true. Little comment there. Ted is on everyone's healing list in every church. Bless it. He's such a star. Anyway, have a great night, everybody. look after yourselves. I say, don't forget, you can tune in, watch the service, a special day from Paul tomorrow. If not, join us next Saturday, 7 p.m. GMT, where we welcome back the lovely Mark Stone to talk with us. So have a great night, everybody.
Good night.